Hey guys, this is Joel A. Miracle Man. I'm here with Josh Lund.
How are you? How are you?
So from Gold Star Mortgage.
Yep.
Josh is the branch manager here in downtown Minneapolis.
Yeah, we've had this office now for 8 years now. So it's been a while. We've had Gold Star here in the Twin Cities. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Josh, you gotta tell your story about how you met Paul Croft.
Yeah, absolutely. With the taxes.
Cool.
Yeah, the tax story, right? So this isn't even a mortgage segment. It's a tax segment, right?
Yep.
So anyway, a few years ago, actually, I shouldn't even say that. I want to say a few months ago, but actually when I say a few years, it's actually just over a year ago. Paul came to me and said, hey, listen, I know you make okay money, right? And you should have me look at your tax returns. And I said, that's weird because I already have a guy that does my taxes, right? And he's been doing my taxes for 5, 6, 8 years, right? Something like that. And whatever it is. And he says to me, we don't do taxes like H&R Block. We're not a standard CPA. You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, I still don't get it. Right? What are we doing this for? Right? He said, well, let me see what they maybe have missed. Right? They possibly have missed something on your taxes, and we can save you some money. I'm like, well, if that's really the case, and it doesn't cost me anything for you to review it, why don't we do it? Right?
At first you didn't want to because you're busy. You're like, you don't care about saving a couple $100 or even $1,000.
Exactly. And that's what it really turned out to be was like, okay, if I get at the end of the day, like you said, I really care about sharing, didn't want to dig up my tax returns like anyone else does. Okay. And I finally did, right? Okay, whatever. If it doesn't cost me anything to do it, look at my taxes, right? So I get them out, send them to the taxes. Okay, cool. I'm going to look at them and I'll get back to you in the next day or two. So 2 days later, he gets back to me and says, hey, you're not going to believe this. I'm going to save you a fortune. And I'm like, well, how much is a fortune? You know what I mean? A few $1,000s. And he said, no, you're going to get back probably about $146,000.
What?
Yes. Isn't that funny? So
insane.
At that exact time, right when he said that, most people would be like, yeah, it's like winning the lottery, right? And at that exact moment, I wasn't even happy. Right? I was like,
I'd be skeptical.
Super skeptical. Thank you. Beyond skeptical, number one, like, hey, how is this possible? Right? How, is this fraudulent? I'm definitely not going to go to jail or get audited. Right? The biggest thing was I was actually mad because now I'm mad at my people that I used to use for 6, 7 years, right? For taxes. Right. And I was paying him a lot of money to do my taxes, the previous guy. Right? And I was mad because how much money did I leave then on the table for all those years that he's been doing my taxes, right? So I was actually upset, right? And then so I went back to that first tax guy, right? And I wasn't very nice, of course, and said, how could you have done this to me? I think you owe me a lot of money, right? After the end of the day, you owe me money. But anyway, so long story short, the numbers were real. So Paul actually went back and amended my tax returns for those 3 years that he looked at them and then filed them with the IRS.
How do you get so much in a refund? I mean, what did your other tax guy miss?
Exactly. And that was my second question, right? After my first question, how is this possible? Like, all that, right? And is this fraudulent, right? And then my next question was, okay, what are we doing differently here? Where is the money coming from, right?
Yeah.
And he said there was about 80 things, 80, right? 80 things that on your returns that your last CPA missed completely. Right. And it was it was a lot of little stuff, a lot of little things, right, that added up. But two of the big things were the biggest item was my boat. Right. I have a boat. Right. And it's a stupid expensive boat here in Minnesota for a lousy 3 months a year in Minnesota. We can use it. Right. And but anyways, he started asking simple questions about the boat. Right. And when I bought the boat, I asked my first CPA and said, hey, can I do anything with the boat for tax purposes? He said, no, of course not. You can write off the sales tax, and whoop-de-doo, right? So anyways, Paul started asking simple questions about the boat, like, do you ever answer the phone in regards to work on your boat? I'm like, yeah, all the time, right? Yeah, I get bugged all the time, right? Have you ever had clients on the boat and talked about work? Of course I have, right? All the time. What about employees? What about, you got 12 employees downtown Minneapolis. What about your employees? Are they ever? Yep. All the time. They're bugging me to come on my boat, right? And then we end up talking about work. Have you ever answered an email or text message on the boat about work? All the time, right? And all of a sudden he started like pointing out that this boat mainly is for work. let alone pleasure, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not a fisherman. I don't fish. I don't do anything. It's just a boat for cruising on the water, right? So anyways, he starts saying, hey, listen, you can not only write off a portion of the boat, but a portion of the trailer, the license plates, the gas, the food, the alcohol, the whatever. It's all insurance. Thank you. All of that, the slip, to park them. Exactly. So all of that can be a portion of that can be written off. And I wasn't doing any of that before. Right. So that for me, that was my biggest thing. But there was like 79 other smaller items too as well. So those are things that they just missed, right? And on top of that, I have 2 LLCs set up for some other businesses. Those were set up incorrectly. They should have been partnerships or S corporations. So they helped with that as well. And that was tax beneficial. So there was a bunch of different things that we were able to do. Everyone's different though, because there's people probably watching this or listening and they're like, I don't have a boat. I don't have any companies. How can you save me money, right? It really boils down to, anyone that's in the 6-figure category needs to have Croft honestly look at their taxes, right? I mean, I'm not a tax person whatsoever, and I never want to be, but sharing my story, I really do love sharing it. I really do.
I mean, it's no risk, no cost just to look at it.
Right, so, exactly. Right.
And so, but that's not the whole story. It gets better. So you're saving. So he said it was
146,000. Yep.
So you went. So what happens? You amend it. You get your check.
Yep. So amends the tax returns with the IRS. That took about a month or so to get that process completed because it was 3 years, right? And then they filed them, and then within 6 weeks, I got the actual paper checks back from the IRS in the exact dollar amount, like he was saying, within a few dollars, right? Yeah. And like you said, then the story gets better, right? So you think when you get the checks back for $146,000, that would be the end of the story and everyone's happy? Okay, so and that was back in like April when I got the money, right? So right around a few months later, I get a letter from the state of Minnesota, right? My home state, right? Yeah. And they said, basically paraphrasing, it says, due to some significant changes in your taxes over the last 3 years, your amended returns, we are now looking into your situation. Just don't worry. This isn't an audit. Don't worry. You don't owe us anything. You're not going to give us you don't have to give us any documents. We're just going to double check your numbers, and we'll let you know if you need anything. Thanks. So it was like a friendly letter from the state of Minnesota, but letting me know that this is like the first step to an audit, basically. Yeah, right? Sure. Yeah. Right. So that was right around the 4th of July. And of course, that was a scary letter to get because, of course, no one wants to be looked at or audited I'm in trouble, right?
The Department of Revenue.
Exactly. Right? So a month goes by, right? And I don't hear anything. Right. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, maybe it was just like an automated letter and they forgot about me. Right. So then another month goes by and I'm like, okay, great. I haven't heard a thing. This is even better. Right. Of course not. Right. So right around Labor Day weekend, first week in September, I get another letter. And this time it comes in a fatter envelope. Right. Like, bigger, right? Fatter. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, here's the checklist, right? Here's the actual, all the stuff that I need to give them. And it's going to be a long ordeal. And I'm going to have to hire a tax attorney and stuff like that, right? So I open the letter and the letter says, we verified all your information. Your numbers look right. You're all good. We made a couple changes though. And here's another $2,800 check. So at the end of the day, and then there's a case closed, have a good one, you're all good.
What? Right? So you got another check from
the state,
from mistakes that they caught or something?
Just simple numbers that after the numbers that were put in by Croft, right? Yeah. That were not calculated properly, meaning they were calculated, but the state actually says, actually it should have been different. And the numbers came back in my favor. And I got another check for $2,800. So amazing. They went through it for 2 months with a fine-tooth comb, proved everything that was to be truthful and correct, of course, and I got another check for $2,800.
Well, the state of Minnesota is one of the highest tax states in the country.
Like number 3, I think. Yeah.
And I got a buddy who used to work in the audit department, so
right.
They're pretty strict.
Right, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why there's $1 billion surplus in the state of Minnesota of all our tax revenue, because they're really good at collecting. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So, there's $1 billion or more surplus. Yeah, there is. If you look it up, it's like $1.3 billion. They have too much money. They don't have to do with it all, right? So that's because of the fact that we're really good at collecting money in the state of Minnesota.
If you pass the state of Minnesota test,
yep,
you're probably good to go.
Yeah, I would say so.
You're done.
Yeah, I would say so. Like I said, fine-tooth comb. They went through my stuff. Verified all all the receipts, all the stuff we had provided up front, of course, all the proof, and everything was legitimate. And so much so they even caught some stuff that they owed me a few more dollars. So anyways, at that exact point, that's when I said, okay, Croft Enterprises is onto something here, obviously, and it needs to be shared and explained to multiple people. And I thought, why not my friends? Why not my family? Why not all of our clients that come to us looking for mortgages? Anyone that basically everyone is a candidate that pays taxes, number one. Number two, if their income level is in the six figures, and that 6 figures for a married couple, right? Or a single person. So most married couples nowadays, I shouldn't say all, most are close to the 6 figures, if not above it. So, like I said, anyone that's making that kind of money needs to have their returns reviewed. So I'm glad we're doing this podcast, and that's why we agreed to it.
So I know that JD Frost, they're partnered with them as well.
Yep.
So I know that they take a pretty conservative approach. I mean, it sounds really aggressive, but they take a pretty conservative approach. What's their audit risk? Like, what's their audit history?
Yeah, so that's a good question as well. So, I mean, out of 800 tax returns or more that Croft Enterprises has looked at, right, there's been a handful of people, of course, that have been audited, right? I mean, of course, if you look up the national average, and this is me paraphrasing, this is an actual number, but I've done it before, but I don't remember the number. The average audit number per CPA or per registered tax preparer, whatever the exact terminology is right around 2%. Anyways, in the state or in the nation, right? So 2% of the time, say they do 100 tax returns, 2 people get audited. I mean, that's the average, right? Sure. There's probably a handful of CPAs out there that get, they do 100 tax returns and 25 people get audited, right? But anyways, the average is
800, 2% would be like 16.
Correct. Exactly right? Somewhere in there, right? There's been 4 that I've known of in the system. A lot of times when I say known of is a lot of times people don't come back to us if they were audited, right? But there were 4 people that we know for sure that have been audited. And they were all mainly, I say self-inflicted. It could be anything, right? I mean, the word I use is self-inflicted, right? Yeah. What does that mean? That means that one of them was a general contractor that owned a company, and he was paying his people 1099, and they should have been paid W-2, right? Something like that. Another one was a bartender, and the bartender or server, and they were in the service industry, food service industry, and they were making like $70,000 in a W-2 in a pay stub, right? Meaning that's not only their income, their hourly wage, but also their credit card tips, right? They were only claiming like $250 a month in cash tips, which is way too low, of course, for when you're making that kind of money, right? At a high-end restaurant or something like that. So, and another one was a married couple that just was recently divorced. They had children. The husband claimed all the kids on tax return. The wife didn't claim any, and that triggered some other stuff, and that was another audit as well. So like that kind of stuff. So when I say self-inflicted, it wasn't because of the returns that we had done that Croft had done for people. So stuff like that. So 4 that I've known of, and like I said, there could be another 1 or 2 in there, but
4 out of 800, that's like half of a percent.
Correct.
So
like
fourth of the average.
Correct.
So
exactly.
Really good.
So the point is, the reason why I bring that, I mean, of course, the next person watching this could be audited, right? Or looked into, right? Including myself or yours, right? Anyone that's had their taxes done. But I mean, there's most of the time, the people that are audited, honestly, and this is, once again, this is not me just spitballing, but most people that are audited are people that do their taxes themselves, and they honestly don't know what they're doing. Like on TurboTax, because TurboTax, you can type in any number you want. Right? You can type in, I had $9,000 in write-offs to the Goodwill or whatever, right? And it's too much, right? Or something like that. So my point is, most audits, and like I said, are, once again, self-prepared returns. Not because people are shady at all. It's just sometimes they don't know what they're doing. And
that's And I asked Paul about the 4, and he said they were 4 out of close to 800, like 796 or something returns. He said that the 3 of the 4 people passed their review, so they met with the IRS, and they said, okay, thank you, everything looks good, you're free to go, like no
Yep.
changes,
Yep.
everything looks good, thank you for your time.
Yep.
The one that didn't pass is because the guy didn't show up.
Correct.
I mean, if you're making an appointment with the IRS,
Yep.
probably a good idea.
Probably show up. Exactly.
But yeah, really impressive work that they're doing.
Yeah.
So, incredible.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's the reason, like I said, I only am sharing this story with everyone, right? It's a personal story, obviously, very financial personal, right? The reason why I share this story is because I really like to help people out, especially when it comes to taxes, to make sure they're doing them right. No one ever, I'm definitely not trying to, we are definitely not trying to bypass any system or try to get into loopholes, of course, right? Everyone needs to pay their fair share. I still paid my fair share, even with getting back my $146,000, right? Trust me, I still paid my fair share of taxes, right? It's not like I paid in $10 and got back $146,000, right? I mean, I still paid my fair share, right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but long story short is that's why I'm glad you're doing this with me, just because of the fact that I love talking to people about my story. And if there's anyone else listening or watching this, that we can help out. You know,
we want to help our clients, put them in a better financial position.
Yep.
So if you make 6 figures or more as a household, let us know. Give us a call, and we'll get your taxes reviewed for free.
Exactly. So, and the last thing I wanted to really talk about was, what do people do with the money? You know what I mean? When they get back 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, what do they do with it? Right? I mean, some people on here might, I mean, if you're making $100,000 a year, you might get back $25,000 if they amend 3 years, right? Or, you know, even more, right? So what do you do with the $25,000, right? I mean, it sounds like a lot of money. You could go buy a new car, sure. You could pay down your debt for sure, pay off student loans, whatever it is. But the biggest thing is, the reason why I want to bring this up to you, and I know this is the reason why you're doing it as well, is obviously we're in the mortgage business. We have been for a long time, right? What's the number one objection we get from home buyers when, hey, well, I want to buy a house, but the reason why I rent is I only need to pay the first month's rent and a $500 security deposit, $2,000, I'm in, I'm moving in, and I'm good, right? The reason why people don't buy houses is they know or even think that I don't have 10% or 20% or 30% down or whatever they think that they need for a down payment. I don't have $300,000 down, right? Or $200,000 or $100,000 or whatever the dollar amount they think in their head or our clients think. And what's the number one thing that we can help them with? If we can help them with their taxes, get them back enough money for a down payment on a house, it changes a lot of stuff, right? I mean, right? So
even though we have plenty of, down payment assistance programs, but if you can come with even 3% down, it's a better loan.
Right. And like a lot of times it's not even about the money down thing. It's about I'm paying $600 a month to my student loans. My car payment's $500. I can barely afford what I'm doing. So a lot of times we've been taking people and getting their money back from the IRS, from doing their taxes, reviewing that, paying down or off certain debts like personal loans, student loans, car loans, high interest credit card debt, right? Whatever it is, and helping them that way. So they pay off all the debt. Now they're debt free or close to it. And then we can help them into a new house with low to hardly any money down.
Right. So. And a lot of clients are also taking the extra money and investing it back into their business, or they're investing it into some kind of retirement investment or life insurance.
Exactly.
Funding that. So all kinds of
or jump starting a college education for the kids or whatever it is. Exactly. So, so we do have plans for that as well. Obviously, we're not licensed financial planners, but we do have ideas when it comes to that kind of stuff is what I'm saying. So, and that's been a big topic for a lot of people and especially in our industry. So.
Cool. Well, thank you, Josh, for being on here and 6 figures or more in total household income. Give us a call. We'll review the last 3 years' tax returns for free. And maybe you'll be getting a check for $146,000.
I hope so. I hope more.
And more from the state after they fix whatever.
If they look at it, if they look at your review, if they look at your taxes, and there's something different they can do, obviously that's what that's the good news. So, but anyways, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. So until next time.
All right.
Thanks.